Jar of White Privilege.
Jar of White Privilege.
That's right. Now, this is going to be in the upcoming exhibit with the 21 in Truro, titled Visions and Revisions.
Right.
And this is the revision piece. I had mentioned to you it is a jar, so it's glazed on the inside only, and on the inside of that part. But it's empty, and that's really what the message is in this piece, is that white privilege is just a facade, really. We're all human, and this past year has really made me think about the other piece that I submitted, which is my original vision, which is a chess set with two different opposing sides. Of course, it's chess, and I had named the originals Franco-Anglo, which again is a very old rivalry that still somewhat exists. And then revisioning it, I realized we still carry these tribal identities that serve a purpose, but what purpose is that white identity doing for me today? To some extent, it's good to know my heritage and my history. It's wonderful. I really appreciate it. I'm 13th generation mongrel. I am. There are a lot of different pasts that come in to make mine, and although I have some of the history, there are many people, as we have all know, relatives that we never heard of and don't know who they are. And there even was some, there's one in my family album that's of a black family, and I have no idea who these people are. Were they relatives? Did they work for us? One of my ancestors? No mention, but there they are. So the past is very complex, and I am privileged to live where I do now, to be in the natural world, to encourage women's rights, but I don't want it to be because I'm white. I want it all to be because I'm human, and I care about people, no matter what. Rich, poor, in between. If we can all get along and respect the earth and love it, then that's what my vision and revision has always been. And I'm really glad to be here. My mother is in the collection here, and so am I, and I knew Harry Hall, and I knew the two sculptors I'm on either side of here. Joyce Johnson gave me my first sculpture class, and Sidney Simon was definitely a man about town in Truro when I was living there. So I knew his work, and they both influenced me to become a figurative sculptor. Primarily in clay, though. I didn't, this was I went with Harry's method. Yeah, yeah.
When I began thinking about the show, I selected Respite as vision. Painted many years ago, it's always been a favorite piece and motivated me to continue creating my semi-abstract images. This past year provided an opportunity to reflect on past work and rediscover ideas I've long wanted to explore. And so I began sewing canvases and creating more abstract work. Drawing inspiration from the window in Respite, hope emerged. Initially, I used similar colors, but soon realized that my revision required other, giving way to the unexpected.
My name is Jane Eccles. These two paintings on the easel are are of Herring Cove Beach, actually the dunes to the right of the beach. They go back to 2015 when Joyce and I set out to find paintings site. And we drove out past the Herring Cove beaches to the end and decided to take a walk out toward the outer rim. This was the first painting I did that day, and the sand was very deep. There was a lot of Rosa rugosa we walked past, and I perched myself on a rim overlooking the water and looked back toward this path, irregular path that was running through the dunes. 11 by 14 is the size of this canvas. It's not what I would have liked to have had that day. I would have liked to have had this particular configuration. This happens to be a 15 by 30 canvas. So I took photographs, which I could use later in the studio. It was very hot that day. I could have used probably more orange in the underpainting to give the effect of the heat. I almost didn't make it out of there that day because it was so hot. But later, in 2018, I heard there was flooding in the area, and in 2019, when I tried to go back to the site, it was barred to visitors because they were working on redoing the road. And so I didn't get back until 2020. And by that time, this whole area had filled in with sand, great lumps of sand, such that if you were standing on the rim and looking across, you wouldn't see this because the sand had built up so much in this area. You couldn't see beyond it. So fortunately, I had my photographs, which I was able to work from.
Anais Nin has said, "We write to taste life twice, in the moment and in retrospection." This quote resonates with me. I do not write, I paint, and this is why I paint. Images flow through life and take us on emotional journeys. An image can bring us joy, sorrow, peace, and memories. Image creates dialogue and narratives within us. Images that pass through the hands of the artist into a painting reveal the artist's intent or the artist's vision. Once a subject is explored, it is rarely forgotten. It takes root like a perennial flower and must bloom again. This second blooming is a revision. It contains the seed of the original, but blooms with new life.
Hi, this is Susan Hollis. I'm part of Visions and Revisions with the 21 in Truro. I have two paintings in the show, Breathing Room and Flowing Free. Most of my inspiration has come from the bay side of the Cape, where I go early morning and late afternoon to walk. I get there really early in the morning and there is no one there. I cannot believe it. I'm so lucky. I have the whole area to myself. I can walk a mile and a half and I don't pass anyone. It's not until I'm leaving the beach that I might see some people coming onto the beach. It's a beautiful place. There's marshes, there's rocks. This tide goes in and out. It's constantly changing. I hope that my paintings are able to convey the feeling of the day and the wonder of the place. It's where I'm just awe-inspired by nature. Early on in my life, I was a textile designer. I majored in textiles in school, and I did a lot of wall pieces in my early career before I shifted to painting. And I started out painting very realistically, and I'm trying to do a little more impressionistic and be freer with the application of my paint. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Martine Jorar. Having recently moved from Cape Cod to Santa Fe, New Mexico, I look at my images from New England with nostalgia. They evoke a place of friendship, of creativity, and of utmost natural beauty. The Pamet River shore, in particular, offered a whole range of moods along the day, different by the minute. Sometimes a totally still image with a blue heron mirrored in the slack water. Sometimes tidal streams moving as a slow breath of the earth, and sometimes exploding in colors for a dramatic sunset. In those instances, I feel a kind of despair regarding the work of figurative artists, as there is no way we can compete with nature. And still we try, adding our thoughts and feelings to the sights depicted, an endless pursuit that keeps us going. Now I find myself in a totally different setting. Although the memories of New England, as well as those of Europe, will forever be ingrained in me, I'm discovering another world. If we create with who we are, the land we live on creates us. I fill myself with new sights, from the colors of the adobe houses under a sharp blue sky, from the dry river beds and the mountainous landscapes, from the thorny plants and the red rocks. Here I sense ancient history. I look for the native culture. I observe the Spanish heritage. All this trigger new emotions. So I take photos, not ready to translate them into a more personal visual expression. I feel like an animal undergoing a necessary molting under new ecological forces, growing a new pelage for a next life stage, and maybe a new body of work.
Hi, I'm Jane Lincoln. Welcome to my East Falmouth studio. You can see behind me the two works that are in the exhibit, Visions, Revisions. I have a history with the Cape Museum. My first art classes when I moved here in the early 1970s were with Harry Hall, its founder. My friend Bobby Hayden moved the building to its current location. And my roommate for our retreat is Suzanne Packer, its first director. In 2005, I had the same gallery space for my exhibit, Cranberry Bogs. The 62 pastel landscapes depicted both the cultivated and wild cranberry bogs of the Cape. The small pastel, Stripe in the Marsh, is one of these early landscapes. The warm horizontal plains are interrupted by the cool blue of water. It depicts the Pamet River just outside our cabins. The subject for each painting is the thin stripe of intense light cerulean blue. In 2011, I earned my master's from the Mass Art at the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown. This led to my more contemporary style, which focuses on color. Surreal cerulean is painted paper collaged onto archival board. I took advantage of the layering of the paper by placing the cerulean stripe on top. This physically makes it pop more than just the color alone. Working in this way is stimulating. My eye guides my decisions. Enlarging the experience of the color allows for the fine details between color fields. If you have the opportunity to visit the museum, come up close to see these details. My intent is to augment the power of color. You might pretend you haven't seen the small pastel landscape and imagine what experience the larger work prompts.
Hello, my name is Jerry Moriarty, and I am a very proud member of 21 in Truro. Let me begin by saying how privileged I feel to be a part of such a wonderful exhibit. visions and revisions so graciously offered to us by the Cape Cod Museum of Art. Based on the idea that an artist's style and method may change over time, caused me to examine the changes that have occurred in my own life, which certainly have affected my work. I retired from a 30-year career in human services, and I got married again. We traveled to countries where color was exploding everywhere, so intoxicating. Morocco, Spain, Israel, France, all offered wonderful chances for me to be surrounded by color and immerse myself in the art of those countries. 2010 produced Above and Beyond, my pastel. And I was working exclusively in pastel at the time, and I loved it for the vibrancy and the immediacy of the color. However, it presented a real challenge to my lungs because of the danger inhaling the dust, and this caused me to look for another medium. Around the same time, I attended a show of white line woodcut prints, and I became smitten by the work of Farrell Sibley Worthen and her granddaughter, Catherine Lee Smith, who, by the way, we are very proud to have in Provincetown here on Cape Cod. The style and the changes which occurred when I began white line was very difficult for me. By nature, I am a loose sort of person, and containment and precision is the essence of white line woodcut. The opposite of pastel, different tools, different application. However, I persisted with it, and today I am still working in it, and I love it. I chose to use these two pieces as an example of how a communication can occur between pieces that were done at an entirely different time and in a different medium. A dialogue can exist between these two pieces, even though more than 10 years has elapsed. My use of strong chrome yellow throughout both pieces helps them to relate to one another. And the verticals, the strength of the verticals in each, further unify the two images. Even though the sunflowers are lush and seductive, the brightness and the energy of the color in calla lilies further communicates between the two. I have lived significantly different lives, and I hold dear the quote of Anais Nin, which says, "We write to taste life twice, in the moment and in retrospection." Thank you for coming to the exhibit. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome. Welcome to my creative space. I am Rosalie Nadeau. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to share with you my motivations for painting these paintings in this exhibition of 21 in Truro, commemorating our 21st year. I like to say I never have to leave my neighborhood to find a painting. And in this situation, I was on my way to walking along Town Cove Shore when I encountered my neighbors walking their young goats, Ben and Jerry, along with my grandchildren who accompanied them. And when we got to the shed roof of the boathouse at Ace's Landing, the goats scampered up the roof. The girls followed them, acting like kids themselves, and I was enamored. The girls had the great idea to feed them some fresh greens, so everybody slowed down, and I was able to shoot over 100 pictures from which I could consider my visions and revision. And the thing that captures me most is the emotional connection I feel to the subject matter. Light is my subject, and this light warming their little faces in the setting afternoon sun was the perfect subject matter for me. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the paintings. Thank you so much.
Who is this woman and why is she upside down? I'm Kate Nelson, and I'm upside down because, frankly, I can't make heads or tails of this current exhibition. Visions, revisions, that's our theme. Alone in our studios, we've tackled this theme. Each one of us has wrestled with reanimating an old painting, or striving to see a familiar landscape or seascape with fresh new eyes. We've wrestled with dark thoughts of inadequacy and irrelevance. As Julian Barnes says, the life of an artist is one of high anxiety and self-doubt, combined with ceaseless work, often leading to nothing. And so we, each of us familiar with the struggle, come together once a year for a week at summer's end. We've done this for 21 years. 21 years of 21 in Truro. We come together to hike, to paint, to eat, to do yoga, to photograph, to sketch, to eat, to play cards, to knit, to cry, to laugh. Did I mention eat? To find answers to the questions, have I overworked this purplish one? To console, to inspire. To get our kayaks stuck in muddy Pamet Creek, lined with easels poised to capture the spectacular sunset and be late for dinner. The Algonquins had their round table. We have a big, awkward, rectangular oaken table in Cabin Castaway. Well, that's what we typically do every year, with this last one, this topsy-turvy year. We come together to create. Artist warriors, colors unfurled, as we enter the battle against isolation and indifference, alone and together.
I am Carol Odell. Welcome to my studio. I am one of the 21 in Truro artists exhibiting at the Cape Cod Museum of Art. My work is non-objective, meaning it's inspired but does not illustrate the natural world. I work in an improvisational manner where the process is 1% design, like these small pencil sketches, and 99% adventure. My goal is to construct an emotional space using the physical qualities of paint and the power of color. For this exhibit, I worked from a piece that was created in 2017 for a special exhibit. The revision was painted in 2020, which was a different year for all of us. Enter into Brightness was the vision, and it echoes the exuberance and anticipation of the 2017 exhibit. Enter into Reflection, the revision, employs some of the same compositional elements, but the feeling is more intimate and contemplative with subtle moments of hope. My wish is that the viewer shares in the adventure of these paintings.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Packer. I'm one of the 21 in Truro artists. The inspiration for the show, Visions, Revisions, came to me a while back when I was going through paintings I had done in the past, comparing them to ones I'm doing today, and realized how over the years, even though we paint the same subject matter, our interpretations of it change. This particular show, we have the paintings, we have sculpture and digital artwork, depending what the different women work in. You'll see some that were done many years ago, reinterpreted today. Others were done in the same day, morning, evening, the light changes, or they change their medium. With me, the small pastel that you see on the screen was done on site in 2018 at the Pamet River. It has a lot of reference points for me when I worked on the larger oil that you see,
back in my studio, and the larger oils donate 2021. But I could refer to the pastel for some realities as far as color, shapes, design, what was really on the palette. So I consider the oil much more abstract, but a sense of place and give a feeling of what it's like to spend a week on the Pamet River. I hope you can come to the museum to actually see the exhibition, because the artists have given some very good text on how they've interpreted this theme, and you'll learn a lot about their individual pieces of art seeing it. So enjoy the show, come to the museum, and thank you.
Good morning, my name is Joanne Ritter. I'm one of the original 21 in Truro members, and so happy to be here with you this morning and to show you my work. But first, I want to show you my view. So we're going to walk over here. I'm lucky enough to have 3 or 4 great windows that overlook this backyard and this woods. And this is the north view, which is really a desirable light because it's so steady. And I do spend a lot of time, I have to tell you, looking at the views, because it gets to be very beautiful as the seasons change. This is my workspace. And over here are the paintings these are the paintings that I treasure, because they each have a story behind them. I'm represented by Gallery Antonia in Chatham. So Dominic has my new work, but these are older paintings, and they all mean something to me. This is from a trip to Spain. This is Harbor Island, where we spend a lot of time. This is the Mother Church in Boston. These boys are on the beach in Harbor Island. This biker was very special because we went to a motorcycle rally out west, and he was really beautifully dressed. I just took picture after picture. And so he's there with me. And this is from Spain. And this is the first painting I ever painted. And the last painting that you can see over there is from Mexico. So that's my work. And up here we have a painting that I did a few years ago from Colorado, where my daughter lived. And that's another beautiful place to paint. This was the first snowfall out there. And so that's there. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
In the beginning, I was an art lover and an art collector with only vague memories of high school art classes. With no formal art education, I started out just trying to paint exactly what I saw in front of me. A tree mostly looked like a tree, and a house, with maybe a little remodeling involved as I struggled with perspective. But my mind has always been a restless wanderer, filled with ideas and concepts I couldn't easily corral. Because of this nomadic spirit, I developed a need to explore many mediums and styles. I took workshops in oil, pastel, and watercolor, and tried acrylic on my own. I have added texture in traditional scenes and abstracts, and have even finger painted with oils. It has often been frustrating, with many failures along the way. But I learned that failure can be an opportunity as you paint over it or use its foundation to make something new and better, and maybe very exciting. The process is always a journey of exploration and growth. Every painting is a new adventure. The possibilities are exciting. The years with my sisters in 21 in Truro has been the time when I have grown the most, through the talent, encouragement, and inspiration I take from our time together as we shared our artistic lives and the sorrows and joys of our personal lives. The 2 paintings in this exhibition are examples of this road I've taken over the years, as I've allowed myself to be open to the wanderlust of my creative spirit.
My association with 21 in Truro has given me a wonderful way to experiment and share my art with other artists. Once a year, a few of us focused on experiments working pastel over monoprinting techniques. We called it Lawn School, as we shared many of our ideas on the picnic tables on the lawn at Sladeville. The bee paintings are a result of these experiments and have joined my art with my beekeeping. Bees are in danger from colony collapse as they bring chemicals back to the hive. We must make wise decisions about how we use agricultural chemicals. If bees disappear, many of our food sources will be gone.
My name is Christy Cardillo-Valesig. I'm proud to be an artist participating in the 21 in Truro Visions Revisions show, also described as stepping in the same river twice. My first painting representing visions is titled Troubled Waters. My second painting representing revisions is titled Emotions Revisited Troubled Waters. I feel there is no better way to talk about my paintings than to now read to you my artist's statement. I feel it says it all. Although my mother had friends and family who loved her dearly, ultimately, she was standing alone on a rocky coast, facing turbulent waters as sickness took her from us. Tears are literally embedded in this painting as I cried with every brushstroke. Years have passed, and once again, troubled waters and darkness are upon me. Grief rushed in with the passing of my husband of 51 years, my best friend, lover, father, and the one person who always made me laugh. On the heels of this sorrow and loss, an unwanted visitor appeared on my and the nation's doorstep, COVID-19. Those who know me and my work are well aware that my usual subject matter is uplifting. Brightly colored flowers and landscapes, marine scenes with calm waters and serene reflections, lighthouses bathed in sunlight are a few examples. Being an artist, you are well aware that what is within at the moment appears on the canvas. We have no control other than having our inner self be exposed and expressed. This time in my life of darkness and troubled waters shall pass, but only when my mind, body, and soul are ready. Time will tell. I look forward to once again painting calm waters with beautiful colors and hugging my friends and family, all of which are so missed.
My name is Joyce Gardner-Zaborskas, painter and printmaker. For this show, I developed two abstract interpretations of a place in the Outer Cape in Provincetown at Herring Cove Beach. And they were done 9 years apart. I wanted to see how much the landscape changed. Throughout the year, I hiked dunes and waterways, just documenting the changes that occur because of the wind, rain, gravity, and the pounding seas. And I found that these two places were totally different. So the first painting, Observed Circumstances, was done in a residency at the Vermont Studio Center in 2012. And it was freezing cold, and I was in the Wolf Kahn barn and had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with 60 other artists and writers. And it was a wonderful experience. So I developed about 15 paintings that one month. The second painting, Circumstances Revisited, was done here in my Orleans studio by myself. And I can see that there's like some COVID angst going on in the painting. Not only did it just obsess over the one painting, but I didn't get to share it with anyone or talk about it. So I've been painting the same painting over and over for 2 months. And I finally stopped last night. But the dunes, these erosional landforms, have always appealed to me because as a child, I spent a lot of time at the beach in a summer cottage on Cooksbrook Beach. So in the same way that Georgia O'Keeffe's Fold of Red Hills defined her, and Lois Dodd's, what do you call those things? I missed it.